Alright guys, I want to show you my latest project with Send Cut Send. So you can see here, this is the butt rib closeout, or the last rib up against the fuselage. And this cutout here is where you're going to look through to the sight gauge. On my Model 5, the builder, I bought that not complete. I could have done something to treat this end of it, but I didn't. So it just looks like this. So you can look through and see the fuel tank lines. It's very minimalistic, I guess you could call it. But I would like a much cleaner look, and so I also want to mount in this opening here my headset jacks, and so I need something there to mount it to. So what I decided to do is, again, use the Send Cut Send program, and I created a file that is for this inside part. So you've got your rib cap on the top and the bottom. I made it basically the shape of the rib. And without having that rib, without the rib cap on there, I kind of had to draw it out on paper, remove the thickness of the ridge cap, and then transfer that into a computer, which was quite a bit of work, to be honest. All right, so you can see how the CAD drawing came out here. Just kind of rotated around a little bit so you guys can get a look at it. Now you can see all the different dots here on the screen. Those are all the different points that I had to put in order to get the curvature and the lines to flow correctly to mimic the wing rib. And it didn't come out perfect. I actually had to make some adjustments, but here's the test piece, and you can see my hole was off by 1/4 inch. I was just pretty much guessing on that. So I've corrected that since and moved that over. But that's the basically the way it will be closed out, except that's out of aluminum. And I could use aluminum. I could just, go ahead and have them recut it for the opening and match that perfectly. But Send Cut Send is starting to offer, and it will be available soon, to take all your designs and have them cut out of carbon fiber sheet. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have it match the panel. This will be a carbon fiber butt rib closeout. I'll have the headset jacks mounted in there, and then you'll see through the window to the fuel sight gauge. Be super clean, and I'll be real happy with that. It will change the distance of these brackets, the thickness of the carbon fiber. So I can't mount the butt ribs until I get those. Just waiting on that from them. They just got that system up and running this past week, and so I may be the first customer to receive a design from them in carbon fiber. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll probably go ahead and take these ribs and paint them black so that when the carbon drops in there, it'll be framed out in a nice black paint. So I'll probably go ahead and do that here shortly. But just want to give you guys an update on the way to Send Cut Send project with these templates. And once I get the final file all worked out and test fit them and everything, this will be something that will be available from Bowen Aero. If you want to do it while you're doing your build, or if you want to modify and add it later, you'll be able to do that with carbon fiber butt rib closeouts. Alright guys, so ditched the wingtip project and started in on finishing up the doors so they're ready to mount up once the butt ribs are done. I wanted to cover Brian Bush's door handle installation. So basically you're going to just follow the normal instructions on mounting the block using the inserts on the bottom. Just follow the procedure in the manual about that. And then where the Allen wrench or Allen screw goes through the block, you're just screwing it onto Brian's handle. I put these on my 5. It's a little bit different on the 5 because the block back then had a much larger screw, so I had to do some bushings in there to change down to this size screw. But after using them, they're really fantastic. I really enjoy using these handles, and what it does, for those that aren't familiar, this is the right side door, so it's going to open like this. You lift the handle up, latch it in, you're good and latched. If you want, you can open it, slide it out, and then this channel locks onto your door frame and allows the door to be open that 1/2 inch. Just by lifting that front edge open a 1/2 inch, it gives you a lot of airflow. It removes the need to put one of those vents on the door, one of those plastic vents that pops open into the airstream. You could do that, but this is a much cleaner design, and you're not drilling holes in your plexiglass or your acrylic. It also removes the need to actually have the fresh air vents in the panel, which frees up panel space. So if you haven't seen these yet, I'll put a link to get a hold of Brian. They're really awesome, and just want to take a second and show you. It's really kind of a funny story. All right, so the funny story with these door handles from Brian Bush is that I did the same thing, and here's what I came up with. So this is my design, and I worked these out in the that Shaper 3D CAD program, and then had a friend of mine up in Oregon and 3D print these. So it's the same thing. It latches in the same way. You open it up, and it locks in the middle, giving you a gap on the door. Same design. Matter of fact, here's your blocks that mount on the door. And then I actually had a little handle that goes on either the inside or the outside, however you want to do it. And that was something I was developing, and it's taken me such a long time to get to this because it wasn't really something I needed yet, and it was just something I was kind of learning the Shaper 3D program by designing these. So it allowed me to really get in and utilize that program and learn how to use it. And then I fired these off just to test the whole creating a file, having them 3D print. And so I was, pretty excited about these. And then I saw Brian's, and again, his are so simple, the way they're designed. Everything's integrated into one piece for the handle part. And I immediately saw it and just said, that's a better idea. That's a better design than this was. So I contacted Brian, and he sent me 2 pairs. I put one on my Model 5, and I've been flying them, and I love them. And then I'm putting this set on the new plane. So if you guys haven't seen these are awesome. They are retrofittable as long as you have the block already mounted on your door and you don't have the 2-pin latch that Kitfox offers, but just a single place latch that if you have that already, you can put this system on. So I'll put a link in the description for Brian. Highly recommended. These are cool. They're all out of billet aluminum machine. It's really a nice setup. All right, I got a builder tip for the day. So there are parts of the project that are going to show massive amounts of progress, and they're very rewarding, like doing the fabric covering and the paint. Then there's those other things that have to be done at some point in the project that seem very tedious, and you get done with a whole day's work and you don't really see much visual progress. One of those things I'm working on today, and again, all these things have to be done. So my advice, the tip is, do something every day and eventually it will get done. So today and yesterday I made the door hinges for the doors, and then I went ahead and I painted these to match the rest of the black cockpit. So that involved, working out the little hole drills, the countersinks, then priming them because they're all aluminum with the self-etching primer. So I've been up since 5 o'clock, hitting the coffee this morning to get going and making the progress on these little things. I'm also painted the standoff brackets for the butt rib, and I've completed the drilling the brackets for the door gas strip and sanded those down and painted those. While I was waiting for the paint to dry, I also went ahead and drilled up the ball mount for the strut itself. So those are going to be ready to mount as soon as I get the butt ribs in. And while I had that same bit out, I went ahead and drilled the seat belt holes for the shoulder harnesses. Here's a tip on that. This calls for an AN-4-6A bolt. That is for the old seat belt where you had 2 brackets here. So each one of these straps came up and terminated in a bracket, so it's stacked 2 high, meaning 2 of these chrome brackets. So you needed the longer bolt. The new seat belts come together and you just have the 1 bracket, so you're using an 4-5, a bolt which is slightly shorter, and it's the part that's not threaded is the difference, and it also gives you clearance underneath. If you don't stack the second one, the bolt's too long, and you'll actually have some play in that. So that's not noted in the manual, at least my version. It may be noted in the new one. So all the seat belts are in and torqued. So those will come apart here, and then this all folds back up, and I'll put the seat pan in, and those go through the seat pan. Also finished, I showed this on a progress report the other day, but again, tedious thing like the brackets for the glare shield. Those are all had to be made, each bracket made, drilled, and then fastened to the panel itself. So those are all in. Another thing that has to be done that doesn't give you a whole lot of visual progress when you're done. So I'm trying to go through right now. What I'm doing is I'm going through the manual, and I had all these stickies on here of things that needed to be done at a later date when something else was completed, like paint, or for the butt ribs the wings have to be mounted and stuff like that. So I'm going through and finding any page that's not complete in the manual and tidying that up. Like, my tip of the day was, to recap, all these little things have to be done. So if you are hung up on a part or some part of the process that you can't proceed because you're waiting on something, there's tons of stuff you can do still. All the little stuff that you're kind of putting off towards the end, do it now. Like, I'll have all these brackets. I can't mount this still because I need to mount the butt rib, but all these are painted and ready to go on. So I'm going to mount the wings today, hopefully. It's getting hot already, but I'm going to wait for my wife to get back from the store. She's going to help me do it. I'm going to wheel the airplane out. I'm going to mount the wings up on the strut and then get ready to position those butt ribs. And I may go ahead and mount them if I can get a confirmed thickness from Sencut Sen on that carbon fiber, which I won't be able to get till tomorrow. But I want to at least get the wings on there so that I can swing them into place, line up that butt rib, and drill it to the tabs. And what I mean there is the butt rib will actually be positioned here and mounted to these tabs. And these tabs may move up or down a little bit, and that's why you don't want to mount the door until those are in their final place and the butt rib's on. Now the only thing I can't do is drill the holes for those brackets because they'll move with the thickness of the carbon fiber that goes in between the bracket and the butt rib. So that's the part I'm waiting on. But if I get that all on there and I can at least get those positioned and drilled up on the tabs, then the door can go on. And then as soon as those butt ribs are on, I can start finishing the wiring out to that point with all the Dausch connectors I'm going to do for all the lighting. Once that's done, the wiring will be done. We'll clean that all up, get the glare shield installed. Actually, I think we do the windshield first. Windshield, glare shield, turtle deck, doors will be on, cowling is done at the back. We're getting real close at that point to buttoning this thing up except for the engine. So that's my goal, is to power through the rest of the airframe stuff, get it solid, and man, you start talking about it, you start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So it kind of gets me excited. About to run out of battery. I pop a new battery in, and we'll get going on this stuff. Alright, so today we're making the final mount points for the butt ribs. So I swung the wings out again. See, I got the carbon in there. So what I need to do is drill holes in the frame through these brackets. Here, here, and here. And then on the underneath side as well. So I'm looking for a nice smooth gap. This one can come out just a little bit. And then the windshield's going to mount to this plate here. So once that's mounted, we can start going on the windshield. So the other thing I wanted to check is my clearance on the all the stuff coming through the wing. So we got my fuel line, my pitot tube, my wires are in there going down the rear spar. Wires coming out the front. All that's run down the wing for the wiring for the lights and the magnetometer. All that fits through that that gap. So I want to check the clearance on that. You gotta be a little careful closing the wing when it's like that. So doors are on. This was not a quick project. This took 8 hours. All I can say is there was a lot of adjustment I needed to do to the outer edges. Some sanding to smooth the edges as well. And then these had to be mounted really carefully so that there's no binding and that the door opens and closes real smoothly. So I do have the fancy new Brian Bush handles on there. Had to drill out the hole and countersink it for this bracket on both of them. Position the brackets right. That takes a lot of door on, door off calculation. Then you're putting this backing plate on here, riveting it in place. The hole's got to be drilled perfectly straight all the way through so that it lines up right in the center. You can see how that bracket is flush. It's very easy to get that off a little cockeyed and then have that actually hang over the lip of the frame. So to get those all fit perfectly, you know, took some time to get it just right. Same thing on the other side. See how those line up. The stainless steel rivets in there. And then you want a pretty consistent gap all the way around the door frame. So next up, we'll be getting these struts mounted. They're going to come up into here, mount. There's a bracket that goes in there. Have to take the acrylic off one more time in order to mount that, because you have to drill some holes in for the bracket. Those brackets look like this. And in order to do that properly, I need to swing the wings out. So I'm going to push plane back outside, swing the wings out. And that's because you want to set the height of the wing so that or height of the door so it doesn't hit the wing. So it should sit about like that. Anyway, that's today's progress. Finally something I can check off the board. I finally marked something off the board. So an update on the Beringer brake system. So what we've been doing with these systems is doing a remote mount reservoir, which comes up. People have been mounting them up here on the firewall. You can mount them on the center console. You can put it anywhere you want, really. Just run a brake line to it. But we really wanted to try to accomplish having these on master reservoirs. And they came out with this new reservoir you can see right here. It's not fastened completely yet, but it's offset. So you can see this bracket that comes off of it allowed me to move it inward of this bar right here and get clearance. And then the other one over there is just your standard on reservoir, because there's no clearance issues on the other one. So you get one of these offset ones, one of the normal ones, and it does allow for proper clearance. The only thing that I have run into is when you set your forward position, I did that without having the firewall on. So if I go full forward position, I have a little bit too much pedal forward on the positioning. So it does just touch the firewall. So what I would recommend on this when you go to install these is fit up your firewall to make sure you have proper clearance before you swed your cables in the back, because that length, once you're set, isn't adjustable. And this is what the kit's going to come with from now on. So it'll be one offset reservoir and then one of the standard reservoirs on the master on the pilot side. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to thank everybody for their comments on the last video of encouragement to keep me motivated to do these. I'm going to try to get them out weekly from here on out if I can, if there's enough progress. I want to leave you this clip of flying in the Idaho backcountry this summer. This is my Kitfox Model 5 on approach to the Fish Lake airstrip.